guys, Cassie here. Welcome back to my channel. So this past month I decided to do a bunch of trope related videos, and basically how I prepared for that was I just wrote down a bunch of tropes that I liked and then I organized them into categories. So we've talked about my favorite character tropes, non-romantic relationship tropes, romance tropes, superhero tropes, and I think that was it. But I had a bunch of leftover tropes on my list that didn't really fall into any specific category, so that's what this video is going to be about. So without further ado, let's get into 10 of my favorite general fiction tropes. In no particular order, let's get started. Trope number 1 is multi-POVs all connecting. A good book example of this would be The Girl on the Train. That book follows, I think, 3 different perspectives: Anna, Rachel, and I can't remember the other person's name. Anyway, this trope is especially fun with a mystery because you get to see different people's perspectives, and then sometimes it's unclear how they're related to each other, but then by the end of the story you kind of understand that they're all connected. One of my favorite movie examples of this trope, which is not a mystery, is He's Just Not That Into You. That movie is just really fun because it follows a bunch of different characters that, again, kind of seem unrelated, but then by the end of the story you kind of start to realize how they're all connected and they all kind of are friends of friends, and it just kind of is an interesting way to make the world seem bigger, I guess, and more sort of realistic, that these characters are all kind of going through similar things, but they don't really know each other, but they're connected somehow, if that makes sense. Of course, there are plenty of other stories, movies, and books with this trope, but those are just the ones that came to mind. Another one that comes to mind is Valentine's Day. It's kind of similar to He's Just Not That Into You in the way that they use that trope, but I personally didn't like that movie as much. But there are plenty of examples to choose from. Trope number 2 is going undercover. I don't know why, but I just love when characters have to go undercover in a story, especially, you know, given that I love romance so much. I love it when the undercover characters end up being like 2 people who are kind of flirty with each other, end up having to pretend to be a couple for their undercover situation. I just love that. I think it's so much fun. Obviously, this trope is generally used in like crime stories. One good example of this that I really enjoy is Chuck. It's an awesome show. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. And the main 2 characters, Chuck and Sarah, are kind of flirty with each other, and of course we all want them to be together. And there are so many times throughout the story where they have to go undercover and pretend to be a couple, and it is just super fun because we get to kind of see the romance blossoming, but you don't have to actually make the couple be together yet, so they can still, after the undercover portion is over, they go back to that kind of awkward, flirty, romantic tension, but we got to have like a little taste of what it would be like if they were actually together. Trope number 3 is memory loss. I really enjoy stories about memory loss. A good movie example would be 50 First Dates. That's a really fun kind of drama, comedy kind of thing. There's also some romance involved. It's like funny to think about people not remembering things. It can be silly, and there's a lot of jokes to be made about it, but it's also a really serious, emotional issue that it's interesting to kind of try to put yourself in that person's place and think about how hard it would be to be in the shoes of the person who doesn't have their memory, and also in the shoes of their family members who do have all their memories and have to deal with them not knowing who they are. It's a very relatable sort of tragedy that I think all of us can kind of put ourselves in the shoes of the characters. I believe it was in my video about character tropes that I like. I discussed unreliable narrators is something I really enjoy, and this can often go hand in hand with memory loss. An amazing example of this is the movie Before I Go to Sleep, starring Nicole Kidman and Colin Firth. It's a really awesome movie. I don't want to say much about it because it would spoil things, But basically it's about a woman who has severe memory loss and she's kind of uncovering some mysteries, and it's a very psychological thriller kind of movie, and I just really, really love it. Trope number 4 is plot twists / misdirection. Obviously, I can't really give any examples of this because in order to give an example, it would kind of ruin the story because you'd watch it or read it knowing that there's a big plot twist at the end, and that's no fun. So I'm not going to give any examples, but I do really, really love a good plot twist and lots of misdirection. It's really lucky for me that I love plot twists so much also because I am terrible at guessing how things are going to go. I'm really, really easily tricked when it comes to misdirection. And I kind of, because I love plot twists so much, I kind of don't try super hard to figure things out because I want to be surprised. So yeah, I kind of lucked out with that one because a lot of people liked plot twists, but they have a hard time not guessing them before they happen. But that is definitely not my problem. I never guess them and I'm always surprised, and it's always so much fun. Trope number 5 is hidden royalty / undercover famous people. I don't know why I like this trope so much. It's just fun to see. I don't even know if I can think of any examples. I didn't write any down, so I'm guessing that I couldn't think of any, but I'm sure I have seen this many times in movies or books. But I don't know, it's always just kind of fun when someone who is either famous or royalty and used to kind of the star treatment decides to sort of go undercover and pretend to not be that person and see how their lives are different and how they handle like being just an average person. It highlights a lot of interesting differences between like classes that can be fun to explore. Trope number 6 is common people. Common people, that sounds kind of offensive. How about average people thrown into sort of spy-like situations? So the movie Date Night is a good example of this. Super fun couple going out on a date and they end up being mistaken for a spy, or what were they? I guess they were criminals, but anyway, they got thrown into this sort of crazy situation where they were just regular people going out on a date and now they have to like be spies basically. That was a really terrible way to sum up that movie. I'm sure most of you have seen it. It's an old movie starring Tina Fey and Steve Carell, and it's so much fun and super hilarious. And of course, another really awesome example of this is the TV show Chuck, which we already talked about. In the show Chuck, Zachary Levi's character gets sent these documents, basically like a bunch of government secrets that get downloaded into his brain. So he has to work with the CIA to, they have to protect him because he has all these secrets that bad people want to get a hold of, and he kind of ends up being forced into a position of becoming a spy, and he's just totally unprepared for it, and he's super funny and adorably nerdy, and it's just so much fun. I love that show. It's also a pretty wholesome show if anyone out there is looking for something that isn't, really sexual or anything. It's just a really sweet family friendly is what I was going for there. Trope number 7 is road trips. I love seeing road trips in stories. I think it's partially because I went on a lot of road trips as a kid. My family traveled a lot. We didn't really go like a lot of places. Mostly we just went to Disneyland like 1 billion times when I was growing up. And since Disneyland is kind of close enough to us to where we don't have to take a plane, but far enough that it's a pretty long road trip, that's what we usually did, was a long road trip. So when road trip situations come up in stories, it's just like instant nostalgia for me, and it's just really fun and comfortable. A couple examples of this would be the book Amy and Roger's Epic Detour, and also one of my favorite books in the world, Paper Towns by John Green. That one in particular, the whole I think it's about like the last third of the book is all like this epic adventure road trip that he takes with his friends, and it is so much fun. I remember when I got to that part of the book and realized, oh my gosh, this is what the rest of the book was going to be like. I was just like so excited because it's just a blast. Road trips are a blast. Also, I think it's one of those things that sometimes is more fun to look back on fondly than it is in the moment it's happening, because sometimes road trips can be kind of a pain. So it's fun to see in fiction because it's like you remember all the nostalgic fun parts of going on a road trip, but you kind of block out all the boring parts or the annoying parts. Trope number 8 is body swapping. It's always really fun to me when shows or movies or books do kind of a body swapping situation, especially if it's done in a comedic fashion. The movie 17 Again is a good example of this. I really enjoyed that one. And a show that definitely does this a lot, which I just realized I didn't do this on purpose, but I'm wearing my Join the Hunt t-shirt. You can't see that part. Join the Hunt. This is my Scooby Natural shirt, and the show Supernatural does a whole lot of body swapping. And they do it in like so many different ways too. Like sometimes it's Dean being a really old man, where it's like one character switching bodies with another character. Like I think pretty much all of our protagonists have been Lucifer at some point in time. And can we just pause here to take a moment to appreciate how amazing Misha Collins is at being like anybody else? He is so freaking good at all of the body swapping situations. He's been put in so many of those situations, and he always has these crazy accents that he comes up with, and he just gets so into character, and he's just a fantastic actor. And then of course we have the amazingness of Dean Winchester being a dog, which was just beautiful cinema. That wasn't exactly body swapping, but it's kind of similar if you think about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and count it. Trope number 9 is time travel shenanigans. And of course, how can we mention time travel shenanigans without talking about Doctor Who? Doctor Who is obviously the greatest time travel related fiction ever created. It's a fact. I really like a lot of different things about people time traveling in stories. It's always really interesting, but especially I just love the way Doctor Who does this so well, where I'm gonna like confuse myself trying to explain this, so I'm sure I'm gonna confuse everybody else too, but I'm gonna give it a shot. I love when some big plot related elements of like an episode of Doctor Who are happening because of something that character does later by going into the past. Did that make any sense? So like something crazy is going on and they've got like one big clue that's helping them figure it out, and then you realize by the end of the episode that the reason they have that clue is because after the characters went through all of that, they went back in time and left that clue for themselves. It's just mind-blowing, and I love it every time. Doctor Who does this kind of stuff a lot, but if you really want to see just an incredible episode, if you're not interested in Doctor Who at all, at the very least, watch the episode called Blink. I don't remember what season it is. Actually, let me think. I'll figure it out. It must be season 3, I think, because it's David Tennant and Martha. So I'm pretty sure it's in season 3. It's called Blink, and it is just like so interesting. And if you haven't seen Doctor Who, it's actually not really that heavy on the like references and stuff. I think you could still enjoy it even if you had never seen these characters before. It's kind of almost like its own movie, kind of all on its own. So now you have absolutely no excuse not to go watch it. So do that now. And finally, trope number 10 is brick jokes. Now, there is a reason that these are called brick jokes, and I looked it up and I understood it completely, but then I totally forgot, and I forgot to look it up again before I did this video. So I can't explain to you why they're called that, but basically it's when, well, you should look it up actually, because it's really interesting, especially if you're a writer. I'm sure you'll be very captivated by the long explanation, as I was. But basically brick jokes are just when characters in a show or movie or book series make a joke that references an old joke. Like the only reason you understand this joke is because you already heard this one, and I like that a lot. A lot of TV series do this. How I Met Your Mother does this really well. They have tons of brick jokes in that show. Doctor Who also has a lot of references every once in a while that you wouldn't really catch if you hadn't seen the old episodes, but I don't know if those all technically count as brick jokes because they're not necessarily jokes, they're just references. But How I Met Your Mother especially does this really well. And that, my friends, is the end of my Tropes series. We did it. We got through 5 videos, I think, on all my favorite tropes, and that's pretty much all the tropes I could think of. So I don't know if and when I'll be doing more trope-related videos because I literally sat down and made a list of every trope I could possibly think of that I love, and I put them into all of these videos. So that's it. I'm really interested to hear from any of you in the comments what your favorite tropes are, maybe especially the ones like in this video that didn't really fit into any specific category of like romance tropes or, you know, sci-fi tropes or whatever. So let me know that in the comments below and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you want to see more from me in the future, I post new videos every Tuesday and Thursday, so subscribe below. I am starting to do more booktube related videos. I used to just do AuthorTube stuff, but now I'm kind of trying to play around with doing like AuthorTube stuff one day a week and booktube stuff another day a week. So if either of those are things you're interested in, then maybe you should follow me. As usual, all of my social media links are down below in the description. And that's it for this series. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see y'all next time and have a great day. Bye.